Man, oh man, what a day. What a week it has been. What a beautiful squeeze off the low of day today. Now you know why I say, right? My favorite way to trade is running stops, using stops as fuel. Hope you guys made some money out there today. It's back to work tonight, right? Thursday evening. We got a big Friday coming tomorrow. We got some major earnings tomorrow. We got some big retail sales tomorrow. And did you see the big moves that we saw on the charts? Big moves today means big opportunities coming tomorrow. I have a lot of great trades I'm tracking for Friday. I'm going to cover all my favorite trades in the video here tonight. That way you have a game plan to make some money before the weekend, before the week comes to an end. Before we get this party going tonight, before we jump in and talk about trades, make sure you subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss tomorrow night's video. And as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you enjoyed the video tonight, hit that like button. Give me a shout out in the comment section below. Appreciate you guys sticking around tonight and tuning in and supporting this YouTube channel. But enough of the intro, right, Joe? Let's get ready for Friday. I'm getting excited just thinking about it right now. Boy, oh boy, everything bullish, right? S&P is bullish. Nasdaq is bullish. Crude oil is still pretty bullish overall. Got those big moves up today, those big reversals off the low on the S&P and the Nasdaq. You have to think whenever we see this much strength on the Emini and the Nasdaq, you have to think the buyers are looking for pullbacks. So we definitely have a couple different variations of pullbacks I'm tracking for tomorrow. But you know where we are, right? You've been following along all week, right? We were just here about 24 hours ago. We're running right into major resistance. So what do you think? Is it possible we may get a reversal for tomorrow? You better believe it's possible, especially with those big earnings reports tomorrow morning before the open. So we definitely have some pullbacks on our radar, and we certainly will talk about some reversals here for tomorrow as well. We're going to cover the entire game plan in the video for both the S&P and the Nasdaq. How about oil? Oil is bullish into a trading range right now. We are right in the sweet spot. We talked about this 24 hours ago. Now it's just a matter of timing the entries and running back up into that trading range. I've got some great bear traps I'm watching for crude oil for tomorrow. And if you're an oil trader like we are, you'll want to stick around and watch that portion of this video here tonight. So charts are all ready. I'm glad to see you are ready right along with me. Before we jump in though and go over each of these charts, my favorite trade for tomorrow, let's talk about the news scheduled for tomorrow. Tomorrow really is not your average Friday. We have quite a bit going on tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow is a Friday. We got two big news events tomorrow morning. We got retail sales number at 8:30 Eastern time, and we got the industrial production number coming out at 9:15. We're going to hear from Christopher Waller at 8:45. But the two big catalysts tomorrow, 8:30 and then 9:15. That's great because Fridays, my kind of mindset on a Friday is to get into trades early as I can on a Friday and leave some runners, right? If you've been with me the last few weeks, you know Friday afternoons, they love to run. So I love seeing news early in the morning that can get the markets going for us, give us some setups, and hopefully we can hold on to something for a nice run on into Friday lunch, into Friday afternoon, and give us some steak dinner money, right, for the weekend. Now, also, too, tomorrow we have the kickoff of the earnings season, right? Earnings season will last all the way through most of the month of May, believe it or not. Tomorrow we begin with what I call the boring banks. They always kick off earnings season. Tomorrow we'll hear from just a few small companies, right? JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, BlackRock. Now, it's tough to tell how much these earnings are going to impact the markets. A quarter ago, right, 3 months ago, all the banks crushed their earnings, right? They made record profits, especially those greedy guys at JP Morgan Chase. I'm kidding with you, but tomorrow, we're going to hear from them. Everybody's been concerned about, is the recession coming or is the recession going to get worse? And, this is definitely something that's a variable for tomorrow. Usually, and the reason why I call these the boring banks is because they usually don't move the markets as much as big tech companies, big energy companies, right? Which we're going to start hearing from next week, in the next 2 weeks, right? So we got bigger, more catalyst earnings coming next week. So we'll talk about that. But be aware tomorrow before the open, JP Morgan or Chase, Citi, Wells Fargo, that really, will some disappointing earnings, will it spook the market? Will that spook lead to the reversal? Those big moves we saw today, a little bit of a spook might not be that bad of a problem, right? Get us a pullback for the buyers tomorrow. So that is the big variable, but we definitely will be watching those retail sales numbers, 8:30, industrial production tomorrow morning at 9:15. And again, don't forget, right? The big kind of the mindset is get into positions early, leave the runner, and see how far those little pieces will run on a Friday afternoon. All right, back to our charts though, right? Because the money is made on the charts here. And I'm going to go through, I'm going to cover all my favorite trades on oil, on NASDAQ, on the S&P tonight. If you like making money, I would definitely make sure you watch all the way to the end because every trade I talk about tonight can be applied to your favorite market. You know me, I will tie it all together and I'll make it worth your while. So get comfortable, take some screenshots, take some notes, and let's get this thing going here. We're going to go S&P first. We'll go NASDAQ second. We'll wrap up on the mighty oil here tonight. First things first, these are all tick charts. As you can see, time frames are listed in the upper left-hand corner. This is the 21 EMA. I always use the 21 on all of these charts. And as always, I do provide some higher time frames. I've got some 60-minute charts, some 4-hour charts linked up in the description of the YouTube video. I like to use 60-minute charts, 4-hour charts to give me a directional bias to filter my trades and also give me a little bit of a context, right? Reference to where we are in the big picture. If you want to learn more about the lens in which I'm looking at these markets right now, check out those links linked up in the description of the video for some higher time frames. So, what's the most important factor right now on the Emini S&P? There are three key factors right now that are kind of the most important factors here. First one is we're still very much a bull bias right now overall on the Emini on a 60-minute time frame. That is the lens, that is the filter I'll be using for this, right? Overall bullish bias. The second thing is a very strong and a very big move going higher. Now, if you watch my videos, you know anytime we see a real strong, real big move in one direction, the buyers have all of this momentum, and we have to anticipate that buyers are probably going to be looking for pullbacks, right? They want to buy low, take their profit back off at the high. So I definitely like the idea of buying some pullbacks here. The big elephant in the room, right? The third kind of component, and we talked about this briefly in the introduction, is you can see where we are, right? We were just here. We were just here, right? 24 hours ago, and we're running into some pretty significant major resistance. Now, it's easy to see the last time we made this big move up. It's easy to see we made this big drop back down. But keep in mind, that was on the CPI number. And you know there's always a bunch of shenanigans going on, a bunch of manipulation, a bunch of head fakes around that CPI, right? Tomorrow's retail sales is not the CPI number, right? So we don't have that same situation happening here for tomorrow. But that overhead resistance and there being some ranges underneath us, it definitely opens the door for a reversal. And so I will definitely talk about reversals here as we go deeper into the video here tonight. What would you say is my favorite trade for tomorrow? My favorite trade for tomorrow is I'd like to get a nice deep pullback. I really like this area right here. I like this 41.54 half level. I get a channel there. This, of course, if you watched last night's video, this was the range. And oftentimes what happens is when you break out of a range, it'll oftentimes come back to that range for a breakout pullback, basically, right? So I like that 41.54 area. The challenging part about that pullback is going to be the fact that we really did not break above those CPI highs here. So we'll talk about how to buy the pullback on this. And later on in the video tonight, I want to talk about let me talk about last night, how to tell when a pullback turns into a reversal, right? That way you know when to flip it or how to ignore the buy, right? And look for the short. So we're going to cover both sides of this here tonight, but let's talk about first the pullback. Because again, we are overall bullish, right? This is not an overall bear market. So the buyers have that little bit of an edge. When it comes to buying deep pullbacks, bear traps are going to be the key. What we're hoping that the sellers right now are going to see that, right? They're going to see that high. They're going to see this deep pullback, and they're going to get fooled into thinking this is a bear market. Now, the deeper the pullback we go, the better the risk reward ratio is on these trades, which I love. The problem though is deep pullbacks give the bears a little bit more of a fighting chance to turn this into a reversal. My favorite way to time the entry on a really deep pullback like this, again, getting down to channel low, down around the 54.5 level, is I'd like to trap in some of these bears, right? So let them try a couple times. And as I mentioned last night, right, think about now where their stops are and use their stops as fuel. And this is basically a failure pattern, right? Just like I talk about in our free trading course. So deep pullback, trap the bears in and use a failure pattern, right, to buy it right back up to retest the high. Now, some variations of this that you want to be aware of. A lot of times what happens is after that failure triggers, the market pops up, and because we are overall bullish, we can then look for what's called a pullback combination. You guys are learning this in the free trading course, right? Failure pattern, below the moving average, and then grab that first pullback. Oftentimes that pullback comes right off of that prior high, right? Again, we call these failure into pullback combinations. Target is back up, right, to retest the high. And then one more slight variation of this, all right? Sometimes we don't get that pullback. Sometimes we'll get the failure pattern, right? The failure triggers, but then it kind of rips higher like this. And sometimes it can be tempting to chase after it. Don't chase after it. Look for a trap setup, right? We talked about traps a lot in last night's video. Now, traps, why a trap right there? A trap setup, the exact same pattern you guys are learning in the free trading course. Traps are fantastic when you're concerned about buying too close to that high, right? So failure patterns below the moving average, let them try twice, trap those bears in, use those stops as fuel, and if we start to punch and go higher, that last resort, right, last call, before we get back to retest the high, then we look for that bear trap, right, that trap entry, just like you guys are seeing. I have hundreds of examples of that setup, right, in the free trading course, which reminds me, by the way, I know that many of you all watching tonight have taken the free classes. You're making money with failures, pullback combos, trap setups. But listen, if you're one of the few folks watching who haven't taken that free video course yet, I'll put a link up here for you in the upper right-hand corner. Grab that link. Take the free classes, because the strategy you'll learn in that short video series will show you a simple trick to know exactly where the best winners will be each day. I'll tell you right now, if you're missing the best trades right now, if you're taking too many losses, definitely take that free course. You'll learn my 4 favorite entry patterns to help you start making money on your own account. It is perfect for someone trying to make the jump into full-time trading, and you'll see a lot of examples of nice strong run up, right? Deep pullbacks, trapping the bears in below the moving average, right? And then pullback combo, bear trap combo, right, on the way back up to retest the high. Now, I know what you're thinking right now, right? I know what you're thinking. Okay, what if this thing just tanks, right, and drops off the high here? Because hello, it happened right yesterday, right? So we are going to cover that here in a moment here. So don't go anywhere on this. I want to talk about one more setup, though, 2 more things, and then we'll talk about the reversal later on in the lesson, right? Trust me, this is definitely worth your time here. I would like to get that deep pullback, right? That's my favorite trade. But you know, guys, it's an overall bull market. Okay, there's no CPI number or PPI number tomorrow morning, right, to save the bears here at this point. Okay, so what if we don't get a deep pullback? What could I do with a shallow pullback right now? I mean, think about it. There could easily be a channel coming up just like that. Okay, I had that channel on my radar too. How do I buy that area? Keep your eyes on this 41.64 trap level. Now, what would the challenge be up here? A lot of momentum, right? Momentum's great. The challenge is location, right? We're right into resistance. What is the best way to buy a shallow pullback? It's a trap setup. Exactly right. We talked about going lower, right? Bear trap, and then back in with a trap setup, right? Same thing. So if all we get is a relatively shallow pullback, We pull back to the moving average now, right? The bears try once to go lower, and they're struggling, right? They're trying to send it lower here. But again, overall bull market, strong run up. The bears may not be able to get it done. If they try a couple times and I can get right below a prior swing, bingo. Shallow pullbacks in a big move up like this, the way you want to buy it is the trap pattern. Okay, so keep that in mind, right? Again, my favorite is that deep pullback, trap in and back up. But guys, remember, we don't want to just simply predict. We want to have a game plan for everything, right? That way you can make money no matter what we get, right? If we make predictions, we limit ourselves to how many ways we can make money the following day, right? I want to plan this all out. That way I'm confident when I see this tomorrow morning, right? So shallow pullback trap. The final thing I want to talk about there, and then we're talking reversals, is what if we keep going higher, right? What if we open up in Asia and we keep on grinding? If we keep on grinding higher, nothing changes, right? Nothing changes. We look for deep pullbacks. We look to get underneath the moving average, trap in those bears, right? Trap those bears in, use their stops, again, as fuel, get that failure into pullback combination, right? Get that failure into trap setup before what? Before we go back up and retest that high, right? So that's the same basic idea if we keep going higher here. Okay. In all reality, this channel may continue and we might be waiting for, right, easy pickings off of that low. It gives us a lot more confidence, by the way, if we keep on grinding higher here. And again, too, if we keep on going higher, that shallow pullback becomes even more desirable, right? Shallow pullback now. We'd like to get down around some of these prior lows here. It'll be great, but if we don't get that, it's fine, right? Think about that shallow 1, 2, and again, when you're buying shallow pullbacks in a very strong move like this, remember, the strength of this move is what gives us the ability to justify those shallow pullbacks. You want to buy as low as you can, right? That way you're buying in protection from the sellers, right? Because as it goes higher, you can assume more bears will want to come in and short it back down. So traps are really, really important. And you guys are learning these, of course, right, in the free trading course. All right, guys? So now we've got the pullback scenario out of the way. Let's talk about reversals, right? So how do we know? First of all, can I short this thing, right? Can I short this thing going lower? Because if I'm looking for a deep pullback, can I just short this thing right now? You can, carefully though. We'll cover that in a moment. And also too, what if we go sideways up here? You know, sideways movement up here really changes the game a little bit for tomorrow as well. So let's cover that now on the NASDAQ, right? The NASDAQ is very, very similar to the S&P. The one thing that I would say is very different, well, not very different, but it's different enough to mention, is that we're probably not as bullish on the NASDAQ. And you can see this for yourself. You can go to that 60-minute chart linked up in the description. The E-mini S&P is very, very bullish in the 60-minute. The NASDAQ looks a bit punch-drunk still, right, after it failed to retest those post-FOMC highs, right? So NASDAQ a little bit more mixed. Now, that's pretty much the only difference between the S&P and the NASDAQ. We have a very strong run up, right? A very strong run. Anytime we see a strong run, we expect a pullback and a retest of that high. However, right, you don't need to be a genius here or a very experienced chartist, if you will, right, to see where we are right now. If you watched last night's video, this is that trading range, right, that told us to not sell down there, right? This was the trading range that told us to look for that beautiful, by the way, I get so many emails about that today. Well done on that crown reversal off of that low. Now, given, I will say, the one thing we have different this time is we took out that big low. The rest of these big reversals off the high, we hadn't taken out that big low, right? If you know my style, anytime we see a really strong move, what do we expect? A pullback and a retest of that low. You could easily say, that we might look back at this and go, that was the very bottom of this tomorrow. It looks like the bears tried once, they tried twice, 3 times, right? It took them to retest that low. Anyways, bottom line, we are at the high of this trading range right now. You can see that beautiful pendulum, right? The amount we go. This is the range we had in last night's video, right? The amount below the range, the amount above the range, it's not difficult to see, right? We're sitting at major resistance. So we talked about the deep pullback on the S&P. It's pretty much the same exact scenario on the Nasdaq, right? I've got very similar game plan, right? This was the range from yesterday. Okay, so therefore these areas, right, kind of a breakout pullback, right? That's kind of why that area is on my radar for tomorrow. So deep pullback is what I'd like to see here on the Nasdaq. Shallow pullback for a trap. Now, if you watched last night's video, we talked about how we know when a pullback turns into a reversal. Okay, most of the time when a market pulls back sharp like this, it's going to pull back to the moving average, and the bears are going to try to short this thing. And when they try a couple times and fail, that's going to be your, again, what I call a failure pattern, right? It's an overall pullback, but when you get these sharp pullbacks like this, it's tough to time the entry, right? Because momentum is so strong, and it can be very difficult to pick that bottom sometimes. I'm sure you've learned that lesson like I did many years ago, the hard way. So that's a failure, right? However, if we end up pulling back and all of a sudden now the market begins to grind down, right? Grind. Or if we pull back to the moving average and we jump off that moving average, okay, yeah, now that's a reversal. And we saw the same thing happen today. You know, again, if you watched last night's video, we talked about this, right? We talked about picking the bottom of this, running stops with that crown reversal, right? We talked about getting that punch up, and then what do we say, right? If they begin to fail and struggle here, that's the short back down. But what do? They didn't struggle there, right? They pulled back to the moving average and they jumped. Okay, once you see that jump, and again, go back and watch last night's video, you'll see what I'm talking about, right? When they jump off that, what do? You mark off that high, you mark off that low, right? And you buy the first test off of that low. Okay, this is why I got so many great emails here today, right? So again, you're watching for that first pullback, okay, or that initial reaction off the moving average. You take this scenario today, flip it on its side or flip it upside down, and you got this scenario for tomorrow. Okay, so let's talk about first of all, how could I short this thing going lower? Well, how did you buy it down here? Right? Last night, how did you buy it down here? Right? This morning, how did you buy that? It was a crown reversal. Right? So as we pull back now, buyers once, buyers twice, we need a bull trap to short this thing off the high. Now, just for the record, this is not my favorite trade for tomorrow because we are so bullish. Again, it's easy to justify this one, right? Because we're still a little bit more bullish than bearish right now on the Nasdaq, right? Given we are a bit mixed overall on the 60-minute, right? But we're still a pretty bullish overall market on the NQ. I really like that crown reversal off that low because it goes along with that overall directional bias, right? These are going to be a little bit less reliable. So if you are looking for crown reversals off the high in an overall bullishish right market right now, it's not going to be as consistent and reliable as it would be in an overall bear market. So keep it in mind right now. But to short this thing off the high, either as we're going lower, right, we're looking for bull traps, right, above the high. That's the way you get in on the way down, okay? The ideal, of course, here is to find some sort of new channel, right, to short off the highs. Like, that makes sense, right? And the reason why you have to sell high like this, the reason why you need a trap like this is because you don't want to be selling it as it goes lower, right? As it goes lower, if you're shorting into this area down here, you are potentially walking right into a bear trap, right? Back up to retest the high. It is very easy to think that as we go lower here, if I can get, or you can get, a short off that, right, off that bull trap, again, right? Think about a channel coming off that low, right? Drop that low. That short, you can make money on that short and then easily 1, 2, back up again. There's easy ways to make money on both sides of these if you can make sure you sell as high as you possibly can. So on the pullback, right, if you're looking for ways to short this thing, the way you do it is with bull traps, right? it could be above that swing high right there, right? That'd be the most desirable one because that's the highest on the ladder, okay? If we keep on kind of grinding down, right, it's above highs up here. And again, if you watch my video, if you're taking my free trading course, you know how I like to connect these lows like this, find those kind of hidden channels, right? Grab a nice strong signal and use that, right, for the short. Now, this could easily trigger, right? This could easily trigger that massive drop as we go here. So let's talk about the rest of it here. Okay, a couple things you want to think about. First one, of course, is if we do end up pulling back, okay, we do end up running into the moving average. If they just simply jump right off that moving average, what usually happens in these scenarios where you get these big reversals off the high is we then are due for a correction and usually pops up pretty good, get above the moving average, trap the buyers in and short them from there. Okay, so again, we're not trying to short that pullback. Okay, we're waiting for the market now to dump, right? Confirm the reversal. Okay, and then what will happen is all the bears who picked the top, right? All the bears who sold on the way down, they're going to start taking their profit down here, right? And once they take their profit, price will pop up. It'll get you in a much better position now. The hardest part is not chasing it going lower. Okay, that's the hardest part because it feels like you're never going to get an entry on this. Okay, what I'll do now is go looking for channels, right? Find channels off those lows, bring it up around those big highs. I know this is simply me drawing right now, but I want to find this big channel and wait for the pop back up. Okay, you'll almost always get that pop back up, right? Look over here, for example, right? The market, of course, dumps off that high, right? We roll over, and then what happens? And of finding those bigger channels, right? It goes up, traps in, and dumps back down again, okay? Now, again, that usually is the easiest money to make after reversal. It can be difficult to kind of pick the reversal, right? My 2 cents on these is when you've got all this big bullish momentum like this, wait for it to pull back. Don't try to force the reversal. If they do get it then to drop from there, okay, now we go out, find those bigger channels, wait for profit taking down here, pop it up, get above that moving average, and use something like my failure into pullback combo for that next leg going lower. This, in my experience, is a much, much easier way, a much more consistent way to make money than trying to short that first pullback, okay? That's what you want to look for tomorrow if you want my 2 cents. And also too, right, will be a pop and grind, right? Another reversal pattern be a pop and grind. Let's say now it drops off the high and begins to grind and grind and grind. This is a giveaway, right? If it just pops and grinds down like this, you just simply mark off that trend line like that, right, up off this high. And the key here on these is you look left, you mark up those swings, and you try to get above one of those swings, right? Swings, of course, are where traps live, right? The moving average is where a pullback failure lives, failure into pullback combination, right, as we go. Remember, an easy way to figure out where that exit target is to go out and measure that first leg down, right? First leg, third leg. That'll help you squeeze a little more out of that runner. And speaking of runners, right, tomorrow's a Friday. So if we can get something like this, right, if it does pop and grind down like that, it's just a matter of finding that new channel. And, you know, considering the situation we're in right now with this big trading range, you know, we pretty much know where the market wants to go, right? It wants to take out some of these big lows down here as we go. All right, guys? The only other variation on this, and this also would apply to the S&P as well, is if we start going sideways in a range. We get some big earnings reports tomorrow morning, retail sales. If we start going higher, if we start going sideways in a range, ranges act like magnets, and they give you a lot more confidence here now to be a buyer. Anytime we see a market start going sideways in a range, and we'll talk about this in a moment on oil, we now look left and go, okay, support level. We want to get down below the range into support, and then trap bears in with a failure pattern. We can be a lot more aggressive in these scenarios once I see a trading range, right? Because if we stick up around these highs, it's basically just confirming that, okay, the bears are not getting anywhere shorting off the high, and the buyers apparently have so much confidence in this market, they're not getting out of their positions, right? That's what a range tells you ultimately, right? That balanced market. So if the S&P goes sideways or the NASDAQ goes sideways, remember, think about where that range was from yesterday, right? This creates that kind of breakout pullback area, right? So if we do end up going sideways in a range, ideally, let's get down into that breakout pullback area, trap those bears in and back up into that trading range, right? If that pullback was to miraculously hold the pullback, right, and dump over, same game plan, right? Don't chase it, mark off lows, off highs, wait for the pop up, and this is where smart money makes their money, right? They short that next one because now momentum's turned over, right? Now now everybody's getting their profit. They'll want to get back in. Anyways, that's the game plan on a range and some reversals overhead. And again, if you got the guts to short this thing right now off the highs, watch those traps, right? The traps are where the best play is going to be. All right, I think we've covered all the scenarios on the NASDAQ and the S&P. I'm sure there'll be something I missed here with the earnings reports tomorrow, so don't forget, 8 o'clock Eastern time in our trade room. We'll do it all together. Last but not least, let's wrap things up here now on the oil. Oil, very bullish overall on the 60-minute chart. Okay, but it's clear bullish bias as you're ever going to see on oil right now. We have a very strong run higher. This, of course, was nothing new. We talked about this last night. Anytime we see a strong move in one direction, what do we expect? A deep pullback and a retest of the high. They've tried a couple times, but they have not taken out that 83.52. We talked only a few moments ago on the NASDAQ how the bears kept trying to take out that weekly low from last week. So that 83.52 is still the big objective here for these buyers. The big thing right now is the range, right? That trading range. And, like I mentioned before, when you get these markets that stick and stick and stick like this, what do? You go out, you find levels of support, right? Channel support right here. I like that one. Prior swing support. My favorite trade for tomorrow, and this is nothing different from last night. I would love to use what I call a measured pullback. So the amount of that last move down projected there, one of the big reasons why I like this 81 area is because of the high of that previous range. We just talked about this on the S&P and NASDAQ, right? When we have a range like this and we get these breakouts, they love to pull back to those areas, right? You combine that measured pullback, right? I call these measured pullbacks. Combine that measured pullback with that area there, and you've got yourself a recipe here for success going back up in this trading range. Now, the one kind of variable that we see right now is look at the separation we have off the moving average, right? Look at that strong shot going lower. Remember, whenever we see a real strong, deep pullback like that, the best way to time the entry is to give those bears a couple tries and buy right into their stops. And this, of course, is exactly where we can look for that failure pattern into pullback combination, right? That failure pattern into a pop up and a bear trap. Okay, we talked about this a few moments ago on the S&P, right? So we're in a great area of support here. Now it's just a matter of picking the entry properly, and again using stops as fuel, as we saw today across the E-minis. Is always going to be my favorite way to do it. So let them try a couple times. Use those failure patterns, right, to buy into those stops. And then it's a pullback setup. It's a trap setup, right, as we make our way back up to retest the high. Now, one of the nice things about ranges like this is that the amount we go below the range can oftentimes be projected above the range, and that can make for a fantastic target. Okay? When you have a situation like this, it's a long-term bull trend, right? And a short-term bull trend. These types of, what do we call them? Slingshots, right? These types of slingshots, and I call them slingshot, correctly, slingshot off the low, right? These can really punch, right? They can really punch there. So that is a great example of, taking some profit off at the high of day and then leaving that runner up to that, 84.27, 84.25 area up overhead here. All right, guys. If we do end up going a bit lower, right, that would really be even better. Same game plan, right? Same game plan. Trapping the bears in, stops as fuel, grabbing that pullback, right, as we go. And also too, it doesn't seem likely right now, but hey, you know, the world we live in is pretty volatile right now. If we were to end up dropping back down into that trading range, it's possible. It doesn't seem very likely right now, but you know, again, I'm not really in the business of making predictions, right? My job in this video is to get myself ready, right? So I have different scenarios mapped out for tomorrow, and I really enjoy sharing it with you. That way you can make some money on these ideas as well. If we were to, for example, pop up, right, and dump, right, really dump back down in these lows, what do? You don't chase after it. I mean, you can if you want to, right? The problem is, here's the problem. The money that you're going to make chasing after it, you're not going to keep it because you're going to begin doing it every time, right? The problem is you can't get lucky every day on a trade like that. You know what I mean? That's the problem with selling low. That's the problem with buying high and selling low. You know, yeah, you'll get lucky here and there, make money here and there, but you won't be able to keep it, right? Because not every time will you be able to get lucky and have it keep going lower, right? I think we all learned that lesson, right? If you survive more than 6 or 8 months in today's markets, you know, last couple of years, maybe everything kept going up, right? You can make a lot of really poor decisions and still make money. In today's markets, though, you probably have learned, right? It's gonna weed out the undisciplined traders, right? So we can't chase after that. Again, maybe once out of 1 out of 5, 1 out of 6 trades, right? You might get lucky and it might keep going here. The better way to do it is let the bears get trapped chasing it, let them get squeezed, right? And once they get squeezed, again, it's that same basic idea, right? We're finding bigger channels. We're getting back above the moving average. This is a much better trade, right? A much better trade there. And I apologize, my squiggles, right, on this chart. But the idea is very simple, right? If we end up popping and dumping back down, we don't chase after it, right? We wait for everybody who sold that. And again, I'm not going to be the one selling that, right? Not a very reliable trade, but somebody will, right? Some buyers will get stopped out. It will, right? It will get trigger going lower. Once those bears take their profit down here, right? Price pops up. We get above that moving average, right? Buyers come in, they try to buy it back up. At that point, though, it's way, way too bearish, especially if we make a really, really strong, right, kind of crush those prior highs there. If it rolls over and really accelerates now it's pretty simple, right? Now we go out, find bigger channels off that high, trap those buyers in, and, right, rope it up right back down into that trading range. Again, doesn't seem as likely right now, right? Just overall bullish right now, but that will be something to keep in mind if something was to happen overnight or things change there as well. All right, guys? So now I think we got a pretty good game plan across the board here, right? We know what we're looking for to buy this dip. We know how to trade it as it goes higher, right? Looking for what? Trap setups as it goes higher, right? All right, we're looking good. You guys are probably sick and tired to hear my raspy voice at this point of the week. The game plan is all outlined now. Now all we need to do is get a good night's sleep, right? See how the next couple hours go here in the overnight session. How will earnings come out tomorrow? Not so much that, but how will the earnings impact tomorrow? That is the big variable that we don't quite know yet, right? Markets have been nervous about the recession getting worse, and so we're going to see how that plays out tomorrow. And remember, tomorrow's earnings are just the aperitif, right, for the rest of the week or the rest of earnings season coming the next 2 weeks. We'll talk more about that in our video newsletters here in next week. Guys, don't forget, every morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, we trade this stuff together in our morning trade room. I'll put the membership links in the description of the video tonight. I'll put all the free video courses in the description tonight. I'll put all the higher time frames down there. If you need any help along the way, any help with any of this stuff, please don't be afraid to call the office or use live chat or use email. The easiest way to get help with our free trading videos or anything else you need help with is to call, email, or use live chat. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap things up here for now. Wonderful job today. It's been a great week so far. We got one more day left tomorrow. So now the plan's ready. Follow that plan, and we'll see you guys. Not tomorrow night, obviously. We'll come back next week and get ready for a big, big third week of the month of April. Guys, my name is Joseph. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight and supporting the channel. Hit that like, right? Give me a subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Adios, amigos. Bye-bye for now.